All right, we live.
Okay. Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Therese, and I'm here with Elanaj. We are doing the first episode of B.L.A.M TV movie review. So tonight, we are going to be giving our own personal reviews of the movie Fatale and also Judus and the Black Messiah.
All right, so tell me what you think. Let's start with Fatale.
Well, I kind of know what you think, but I wanted to kind of you sure you don't want to go first?
Well, the way we're going to rate these movies, the way we discussed it is it's either a fresh squeeze glass of lemonade or it's trash truck juice. There ain't really a whole lot of middle ground. You know what I mean? I want to kind of talk about the movie before I give my final conclusion because, just to be fair, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I can be real cut and dry with it. That's why I asked, what you thought about the movie Fatale. Maybe we should start. Hopefully, we won't get a strike for it, but maybe we should try to have a little piece of the trailer so people can see what we dealing with here. All right, so here's the trailer.
Stay on the road, and it will take you safely home, but make a wrong turn, and you will meet the darkness.
What was that?
The detective's here. She's gonna be taken over.
I'm certain I know you from somewhere.
All right, so I'm not going to show the whole trailer because I don't want to run into any type of copyright issues. Hopefully, we'll be good with that. But that's just to give everybody a brief idea what movie we're talking about.
I wasn't seeing anything. Was I supposed to be seeing the trailer?
Yeah, you couldn't see anything?
No.
Nothing at all? What did you see?
It was just like black.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see.
Okay, now I see something.
Come on, stay and play.
No,
Look, I have a marriage to protect.
You're afraid I'm gonna expose you to your wife?
It wasn't a robbery.
Can you think of anyone who might want to harm you?
Friends, family, or a woman you screwed
And discarded?
This wasn't part of the plan.
Did you do it?
Did I do what? I am not a murderer.
I don't believe you.
I made one wrong turn, and it cost me everything.
Well, then you shouldn't have come to Vegas.
God, nothing's easy with you.
right, there we go. But
All right, first of all, I want to say they made that trailer look real good. I want to say that first of all. But they do most of the time. Um, I'm a fan of Michael Ealy. And I think that's really why I wanted to see this movie. But I gotta say, I was really disappointed. Uh, First of all, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody if you haven't seen it and you plan on seeing it. But I think it's kind of clear from like the trailers and the hype and talk and all of that that this movie is kind of like an ode to Fatal Attraction, right?
yeah, let's
And
let's just give a spoiler alert in advance so that we can say what we need to say. So if you haven't seen it and you're gonna see it and you don't want it to be spoiled, we're gonna spoil it. So
yeah, you probably
decide
should. You
now.
probably should just click off right now. But I mean, that's my general thought. This movie was really a poor attempt as some kind of reboot to Fatal Attraction. Um, I think as far as Hilary Swank goes, I think it was a really big miscast. And that's not a knock against her because just generally speaking, I think Hilary Swank is a great actress. You know, I've
Which,
seen her
char-
in other
which, which character was Hilary Swank?
the main character, the white detective lady who
Oh,
was,
okay.
you know, um I've seen her in other things, and in the past I thought she has done a great job in other movies that she's been in, but in this movie I just think it was a wrong casting choice. You know, there was a scene where he was going to his homeboy's bachelor party and they were in this big club in LA. And in the scene, you know, if you look around in the club, there are a lot of like young looking 20 something women. And out of all the women that were there, his eye like goes towards Hilary Swank's character. And just generally speaking, I think in the scene, it just looked kind of off because she looked older than everybody else that was in the club. And then it just, you know, to me, it just seemed like it was a mismatch. Like they show us earlier his wife, who he's married to. And he's married to this beautiful, dark-skinned woman in the movie. You know, so we see her and we like, oh man, she's a beautiful woman. And then he gets to the club and he has this affinity towards Hilary Swank's character, which to me just seemed, I don't know, really off. Um, and then her trying to be Hilary Swank trying to be like seductive and sexy, and I don't know. To me, it just didn't work. So that's one point for me. And then, like I said earlier, I'm a fan of Michael Ealy, but in this movie, I just wasn't really impressed with his performance. As you and I spoke earlier, one of the highlights of this movie was what was the guy's name from Minister Society?
Kane.
Kane, yeah.
Kane.
So we saw Kane. We saw Kane come in to the scene, and we was just like, "Hey, man, that's dude from Minister Society." Like that was one of the highlights of the movie for both of us, I think. But you know, overall, the plot just had holes in it. The casting, as far as Hilary Swank, for me, didn't work. I wasn't impressed with Michael Ealy's performance in this one. And, you know, for them to be following the storyline of Fatal Attraction was a huge movie during that time when it came out. It's still kind of epic in a way because you know, whenever somebody's referencing some crazy chick that somebody's in a relationship with, they use that phrase like, "Oh, you got a fatal attraction on your hands." So that to me, like, that just kind of shows, you know, the epicness of that movie back then. It was like a cult classic, you know, for them to try to reboot it in a way and miss so horribly. I don't know. I was just really disappointed. So that's my take.
All right. What was it? Something that he was going through at home with his wife that made him? He was at a bachelor's party, right? When he met the white
Mm-hmm.
woman.
Mm-hmm.
What? Huh?
Yeah, he was
Was
at
it?
one of his friends was getting married, so they went to Vegas for a bachelor's party.
So, what was it going on in his home that made him decide that he wanted to sleep with this white woman on the side?
You know, initially they didn't show us that, but then they just kind of alluded to him sensing that something was off with her. She did a job, I think she did like real estate or something like that. So, you know, the argument they were having is that you've been out late a few times this week. And her thing was like, "Well, I'm showing property. So what do you want me to do? I'm working." But he just could sense that, you know, something wasn't right, something was off. And come to find out, she was actually having an affair with his friend, his business partner. So yeah, that's how, you know, that's what led to that.
All right. So, what I can say is this has to be the baddest white woman on the face of the earth right here. You know what I mean?
The
Like
what?
I said, the baddest white woman I've ever seen in my life, yo. This woman was a goddamn superhero, yo. You know what I mean? She was 007. She was, like you said, she scooped him up in the club, even though he had a drop dead gorgeous wife at home. She still was able to mack him in the club. She went from macking him in the club, 007 detective. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Stepped up on the scene. You know what I mean? Broke it down for him. You know what I mean? Told him his wife was cheating on him with his best friend. And then the gangster shit she was pulling off. You know what I mean? She you know what I mean? When Kane and the cousin came to kill her, she talked them. First of all, she tricked them into going in the bathroom, grabbed the shotty out, bang bang. You know what I mean? Blasted the cousin, came out, bang bang, blasted Kane up. Yo, she was a bad bitch, yo. That was a bad white woman right there. I ain't never seen a white woman that goddamn awesome in my life. If you love white women, this is the movie to see. You know what I mean? She was a bad motherfucker. That's all I could say. You know what I mean? And like you said, it was crazy seeing Kane from Minister Society. We ain't see Kane in a minute. You know what I mean? And if she can kill Kane from Minister Society, she can accomplish any goddamn thing in life. All while she was going through some other shit, trying to get her child back or something on a
Mm-hmm.
war with
Mm-hmm.
some kind of high powered politician. So,
Mm-hmm.
this was a bad bitch, man. This was a goddamn white woman's dream. This movie was trash truck juice. You know what I mean? But as as far as you know what I mean, seeing a white woman that's heroic, that's that's witty, intelligent, sharp, gangster, and a goddamn Mac in the club. This is the movie right here. This is the one. You know what I mean? So if you love trash truck juice, you love white women, I highly recommend this film, yo.
So that's your rating? Trash truck juice.
Trash truck juice.
Okay.
All the way.
I gotta, you know, I have to agree with you on that. I hate to do it because, like I said, I'm a fan of Michael Ealy, but yeah, it was bad. It was
So
bad.
just to be bluntly honest, movies like this sometimes we click on because we be seeing black characters, and
Right.
in our world, we don't. I mean, we don't. You can watch Netflix all day, and nowadays they starting to put more black movies on there. But at the end of the day, a lot of them be cliche. It be the same style, same storyline. So when we see black characters, sometimes it gets, automatically sparks our interest. But I will say that this movie had a lot of black characters, but really it had a lot of mostly black characters. But it was like the black characters really were there to support the role of this heroic white woman. You know what I mean? The black characters really didn't hold any further integrity in the film aside from being a supporting cast towards this 007, um, James Bond, Al Capone, um, goddamn Goldie and the Mac white woman. You know what I mean? She was the baddest white woman I've ever seen in my life, yo. Can't believe it. So yeah, you like trash truck juice? You love white women? Go for it. This is the one. This is the one for you. Don't be fooled by the black cast, cause ain't no black heroes in this movie. You know what I mean? But
He
I
did
do
live
believe.
though. He lived to the end.
I was about to say I do believe in the end. Um, he did bang her out, right? She went out in a blaze of glory, right? Like on some cowboy shit, right?
Yeah, but he survived in the end, which is more than we can say for a lot of black characters in movies these days. So.
There is that. There is that. The black man did live the end of the movie, and that's exceptional. So we'll give it a little bit of credit on that note, a little bit of props on that note, because black men usually don't make it to the end of the movie. Black people usually don't make it to the end of the movie, but the black man definitely don't usually make it to the whole end of the movie. So at the end of the day, I mean, he made it to the end of the movie, but then his wife got killed. Her lover got
Hmm.
killed. The white woman got killed. He made it to the end of the movie, but he ain't really had
And
shit to show
Kane
for it.
got killed
Yeah,
again.
right.
Again.
Yeah. But yeah, he lived to the end. That's the highlight of the movie. You know what I mean? If you came for the black characters, he lived to the end of the movie. You know what I mean? And again, this was one badass white woman. She was the Shaft of 2021. You know what I mean? White woman Shaft. You know what I'm saying? That motherfucker. So now I'm gonna shut my mouth unless you got any more to say about this a highly disappointing waste of an hour and a half to 2 hours of my life.
No, I don't have anything else to say. I mean, I'm not telling anybody not to watch the movie. Like we in quarantine. It's what else you gonna? There's nothing else to do. What else you gonna do? But we just giving our personal opinions. That's all.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
I will say this. There are a lot of movies that I click on and I don't make it to the end of the movie. So the fact that I made it to the end of the movie says something. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? As far as what you said about quarantine, you know what I mean, watching movies during quarantine. It's the type of movie that has enough action, enough suspense that it may hold your attention to the
Yeah,
end
it
of the
definitely
movie.
has some action in it. Definitely did.
Yeah, yeah. Word. So that's that. That's that. So we're gonna move on to the next.
Yep.
All right, what's next? Let's give a little introduction for what's next.
Judus and the Black Messiah. So
All right.
I just want to start off by saying I think it was a lot of hype surrounding this movie. Um and when I went into it, I didn't really have any expectations. Again, it was just one of those movies where the cast is black. So I feel like sometimes as black people, we're starving for that. We're starving to see those black actors on the screen. So, that was my only thing. I just went into it wanting to see a movie about black people. That was it. I didn't have any other expectations. But this movie exceeded for me anything I could have ever imagined. I went into it not really knowing a whole lot about Fred Hampton as a person or as a figure, but the movie, the way, the cinematography, um, I thought he was a good casting choice. The script I thought was good. Just everything, the setting, the way the people look. I just really don't have anything bad to say about this movie. And I want to make a point because when we initially spoke, I did comment about Lakeith Stanfield's performance. Because initially, we watched the movie and I was like, I was really impressed by the rest of the movie, but wasn't overly impressed by his performance specifically. And today I was sitting there just kind of thinking about just trying to go deeper than the script that he had. And I thought about, subtle little intricacies of his character, like, some of the facial expressions that he was making, some things he was doing with his eyes. And I think he really did a good job conveying, what it might have been like as far as the duality of this O'Neill guy. I think he did a good job really conveying that. So I want to retract that because I do. I think he did a pretty good job with that. And I think I said to you initially, I think that Daniel Kaluuya really did a good job with Fred Hampton, even though I've never really known anything about Fred Hampton. Just as an actor, the way he kind of transformed into that character when he was doing those scenes, like I told you, where he was giving the speeches. I've never heard any of those speeches. I don't know anything about Fred Hampton, but when he was giving the speeches in the movie, it made me want to go outside and be like, power to the people. You know what I mean? So if it made me want to do that, I just think it was effective. I think he did the job. You know what I mean? I think mixed reviews because online I've been reading, good reviews as far as his performance and bad ones. But I think he did a good job. I personally, I don't have anything bad to say about the movie. The girl that played his love interest, I think she did a phenomenal job. Even the guy who played the FBI detective, FBI agent, I think he did a good job. I don't really have anything, negative to say about the movie personally.
All right, so just let's bring everybody up to speed. Let's show a little trailer. Personally, I don't think this film needs any introduction, but we can go ahead and jump into a little trailer real quick. You know what I mean? So for me, I don't even know where to start with this movie. Like, let me start by where I don't remember exactly when, but I know I heard about the movie long before it was released. Probably when it was still being made, I had heard about it. And it was one of them things where when I heard about it, I didn't respond like, oh, I can't wait for that to come out. I heard about it and pushed it to the back burner. Like, I don't even want to look forward to it because when it comes to our icons or our legends or our heroes being represented on screen, so often we're disappointed, especially when it comes to biopics of black people. And so this was one of them things where it was like, when I heard they was doing the movie on Fred Hampton, my first reaction was almost like, please don't. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of just was like, all right, I'll see it when I see it. 'Cause I was just, part of me was just like, concerned about them doing more of a disservice, doing more harm than good. That's oftentimes how it goes down. Then later on, I heard Ryan Coogler was a part of it. So it was like, you see his track record with Black Panther and Creed and all that. He hasn't let us down yet. Fruitville Station. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of building up a little bit like this might be something. And even when I seen the trailer, I was still like, here we go. You know what I mean? And then I found out that Fred Hampton Jr. and Mama and Jerry, who was Fred Hampton's wife at the time, Fred Hampton Jr.'s mom, I found out they were cultural consultants on the film as well. Later, I found out that two brothers from Newark, New Jersey, was part of the film as far as producing it. And some pieces came together, and when I finally saw it, I have to say that I don't feel like it did Fred Hampton a disservice. I've read some articles where some people feel like it did do him a disservice. A lot of that comes from us just being disappointed so often that we have to be heavily critical of everything that's put in front of us. We have to scrutinize everything that's put in front of us because so often we're thrown a curveball, especially when it comes to, like I said, our heroes. But for me, I didn't get the feeling that it did a disservice. Some people have an issue with a British actor playing Fred Hampton Jr. I had a conversation with some folks, and we agreed that had they used an African American actor, somebody that was closer related to the struggle of our people more directly, maybe they would have pulled from a deeper place. I think Daniel did his job. You know what I mean? Especially being a British actor, it's a challenge to me that he had to overcome in terms of embodying that role. As far as that Chicago accent, I don't feel like he nailed the Chicago accent, but I feel like he did what needed to be done in order for the film to be what it is. Um, One of the things that in private when we talked about it that I criticized that I definitely didn't feel like the fullness, the intensity of what I may see when I watch a Fred Hampton documentary and I listen to him speak. I didn't get that from the movie when it came to Daniel doing the Fred Hampton speeches and all of that. They gave little quotes and all of that. You know what I mean? But there's a certain level of intensity that Fred had when he spoke that I didn't get from the film. I think that's part of what people are criticizing as far as them feeling like the film didn't do Fred Hampton justice in that area and focused primarily more on the role of Judus, which it did. The film definitely highlighted more of the role of the Judus than it did as far as focusing on bringing that intensity of Fred across. I don't think that it was completely lacking, though. I think that it was there, but it left a lot of room for the viewer to say, hey, let me go do my research and find out who this Fred Hampton person really is. So again, I don't think that the intensity of Fred Hampton came across 1,000%, but that's not to take away from Daniel's effort in filling the role. I just think the way the film was drawn up, it was more based on the life of Judus, which again is what I hear a lot of people criticizing. But speaking from the perspective of somebody that was very familiar with Fred Hampton prior to watching this movie, even I've spent time with Fred Hampton's son in Philadelphia and in Chicago. On a personal note, I just feel like after watching the movie, there were certain things even that I got from the movie that I wasn't aware of, that I didn't know about. So, anytime a movie can do that, can give you that fulfillment, you know what I mean, can teach you something new, expose you to something greater without making mockery or undermining the hero, in this day and time, that's a win.
Absolutely.
That's a win. You know what I mean? The young lady that played Mama and Jerry, I think she did a great job. You know what I mean? I read in the article when she was being coached by Mama and Jerry, uh, that she told her, you know, just do what you do as an actress. But my only request is that at the end of the movie, when Fred gets shot by the police, don't cry. And when they did the close up of her face, when Fred got shot in the final scene, you know, there was something that came across, that intensity came across. So she captured that. There were moments where I feel like Daniel captured that intensity to a degree, like when they went to go meet with the gang members. I thought that
Mm-hmm.
scene was awesome. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
all in all, I'll say this movie was a fresh squeezed glass of lemonade. You know, I didn't know that Emmett Till's story tied into that whole thing as well. Um, you know, again, I taking the movie at face value. I didn't do any further research to find out how specific that is, but nonetheless, I just think that it tied into the movie well. You know what I mean? How they spoke about Emmett Till and his mom babysitting Emmett Till, and you know, and I think there was even a part where a police officer was killed or shot. I mean, you know, normally in movies, Hollywood movies and movies that come across the screen, they always make it palatable for white people to the point where, you know, they'll in reality so much that, you know, I mean, they don't want white people getting killed or cops getting killed to the point where even if that's a part of the story, they'll find a way to skate around it. In this movie, I felt like, you know, he had it out. And another thing, usually when I see Black Panthers depicted on screen, they focus on the militancy so much so that it gives this impression that that's just who the Black Panthers was. This militant group that carried guns and were terrorists, a terrorist organization, basically. And they skip over the fact that the Black Panthers was about feeding the children and building medical centers in the community. All of that prior to them becoming militant. They became militant as a result of being under attack. And that was another thing about this movie that I was concerned about. Will they draw that storyline out accordingly? And they did. You know, they did. You know,
I think that's a. I'm sorry.
but
I think that's a good point. I think. I mean, I was just pleased that they emphasized certain things in the movie, like showing them giving the lunch to the kids, and when he had the money, he wanted to use it to build the medical center, you know, for the people in the community and things like that. I'm glad that they touched on and emphasized those things because too often, you know, when they do, like you said, when they do movies about us, they focus on a lot of negative elements about, you know, our people, and even to the point where a lot of times it makes me question, you know, sometimes when they write something in the script, I have to sit back and think like, did that really happen? Like, is that true? You know what I mean? So it was just nice to see a movie that where they didn't villainize him for something else that was like totally unrelated to what the movie is about, because they do that way too often when it comes to telling stories about us. So I was just glad in this film they didn't do that. And I actually earlier today I was reading a review from someone else online, and he gave a real technical review of the movie, but then at the end, you know, it's kind of like he was throwing shade a little bit. Like he mentioned the violence in the movie, and he mentioned something about, you know, violence with the Black Panthers, and it was a quote that the white FBI agent said to the O'Neill character in the movie. I can't think of exactly what it was, but it was like something like you can't shoot your way to equality or something like that. So the guy that was doing the review, like, you know, he chose to focus on that. So he was kind of throwing shade somewhat as far as, you know, the script and the people that wrote the violence into the movie. And I'm just like, that's such a cop out, you know, to say that. Like, the violence is part of the historical reference. So if you're telling a story, you know, the violence is a part of it. As far as violence that the police used and violence that the Black Panthers used. It's just historically is part of the story. You know what I mean? So it's like, how can you not speak about it? I don't understand that. But
But you know, my take on that is that violence in this country, in this society that we live in, violence seems to only come up as a negative issue when when black people are illustrating it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, and
how
that's
many
how it made me
movies?
feel.
It's countless movies in Hollywood where they're extremely violent. You know what I mean? Nobody questions it. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
soon as you know what I mean, soon as you know a black movie gets made and there's some violence in it, all of a sudden it's too violent. Like, come on, man. I mean, you know, the fact that a black man was a hero and white people were the villains of this movie says a lot. I can't even point out another movie where you know what I mean, where the black man was a hero and the white folks were portrayed as the villains that they moved themselves to be. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They didn't skate around that issue, man, at all. You know what I mean? And they could have, but they didn't. Um,
And when you were
you
just
know,
speaking about the villain, um, the O'Neill character just popped into my mind. But really, what this movie does is kind of humanizes him. You know what I mean? And it gives
right.
us a look into um the struggle that he might have been going through at the time. Because you got to think about it, like he was doing whatever he was doing in his own life before the FBI came along. He got caught up in something and they propositioned him like, hey, look, either you're gonna go to jail or you're gonna do this.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, if he didn't know anything about Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party, like he didn't have any personal connection to them at all. So I don't know, you know, I don't know who would sit here and say if they got that kind of deal shoved at them that they wouldn't take it.
Oh yeah, I
I'm
mean,
just,
I know a lot of people that wouldn't take that deal, but that's a whole separate conversation. What I do like is the fact that in movies like this, usually when they have black people pitted against each other, that becomes the focus, and they like they kind of erase the white hand behind it. You know what I mean? In this one, they really equally balance it out. Like Lakeith played the role of the rat, but at the same time, they really show how step by step J. Edgar
mm-hmm,
Hoover and the white folks is really pulling the strings. A lot of times, they might make mention of that in the movie, but if they make mention of it at all, they'll kind of push that to the backdrop and just show the aspect of the black people turning against the black people, like Hotel Rwanda did. You know what I mean? They showed the Hutus and the Tutsis going to war, but they ain't mentioned. They might have briefly, if at all, mentioned the role of the Belgians behind that whole situation, which instigated all of that. You know what I mean? In accordance
mm-hmm,
with that, with Hotel Rwanda, they made the white folks out to be the heroes in that. You know what I mean? So you know, it gets tricky when it come to movies about us. And you know, I was looking for the curveball in this one, and I haven't found it yet. You know what I mean? It was one scene in particular that stood out for me, man. That's when I realized, like, wait a minute, they really telling this story in a wholehearted fashion. When Lakeith came to him with the C4, was like, yo, let's
mm-hmm,
blow these motherfuckers up. And he was like, yo, we way more disciplined than that. Like, you know what I mean? And he rejected the offer. Honestly, when he came with the C4, I thought he was gonna be like, yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? But you know,
mm-hmm,
they rejected him. Get out of here with that. You know what I'm saying? Which kind of made his plan backfire. And I was really impressed by that. You know what I mean? The way they drew that scene up and showed that Fred Hampton wasn't on no terrorist shit. Like and the fact that he had the option to be on that, knowing that he was dealing with people that was trying to kill him, you know what I'm saying? His mission stayed the same. I'm here to unify the people. This ain't about, you know what I mean, us killing.
Yeah, it's like
Adults.
he was saying in the movie, is power to the people. Wherever there's people, there's power. So that was his thing, like you said, just unifying the people. Um, and that was good for me to see because, like I said, I don't really know much about the Black Panthers, so it was good for me to see this depiction of it, instead of, like you said, the narrative that we always get in the media, which is that they were militants who were armed and ready to do violence, like whenever,
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciated this movie
Right.
a lot. And
You know,
for the people who have who are criticizing it, like I don't know. My response to that is like I spoke to you earlier, like after we watched the movie, just saying that I didn't go into this really expecting a biopic or some kind of documentary. I think you can look at it and say it's kind of a historical reference, but for the people who are like, oh, it didn't tell his story enough or whatever, I I wasn't looking for that. I went into the movie thinking like this is a movie about the dude that betrayed him in the Black Panther Party, not so much about Fred Hampton's life story. You know what I mean? So, like I said, it
with,
exceeded anything. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, with that said, having had watched the movie, I would have appreciated a little more context, a little more content in regards to Fred Hampton and his life. Because when it comes to Fred Hampton, there's a lot of question marks. You know what I mean? They're very, there's not a whole lot of documentaries or a lot of things to reference. You know what I mean? He only lived till he was 21. I read somewhere recently that he went to law school. You know what I mean? I think I remember them mentioning in the movie that he was in the NAACP. I don't remember them mentioning that he went to law school. There's little details like that I would have liked to see them include. I get it. They focused more on the Judus aspect, but I don't want it to become. I don't want to feel like the story of Fred Hampton is exploited in order to tell this story over here about the Judus. You know what I mean? Say that to say
Right.
that I would have appreciated a little more content in regards to who Fred was. You know what I mean? I don't think that's a whole lot to ask for. So I'm not in complete disagreement with some of the criticisms in that regard. Again, it's not to say that I don't think that the film was a win. I still I would have definitely appreciated a little more content or a little more context in regards to who Fred Hampton was. Because when we first watched the movie, your first question to me was, well, who is Fred Hampton? What did he do? Remember, my response was, well, he died pretty early, so it's not like he got really a long resume with a whole lot of accolades. It's not a lot I can tell you, except for the fact that he was a dynamic speaker and he was committed to his people. You know what I mean? As far as
Mm-hmm.
accomplishments, I couldn't run down a list of accomplishments or things that he did. You know what I mean? So if there are things out there that I'm missing, to me, this film was a perfect opportunity, especially for somebody that already did a little homework. You know what I mean? And people who may not be familiar alike. This film is a perfect opportunity to fill some of those voids and those gaps. And it didn't necessarily focus on that particularly. I can't say that I would have appreciated it that much more if it had. And I'm not saying that it had to be a documentary or a full-fledged biopic. But I mean, it wouldn't hurt if possible, give us a little bit more content in regards to Fred. But for what they gave us, I'm not complaining either. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. Um, I just think we always walk away from movies that tell our stories feeling that way.
Mhm.
So it's like I always say, if you don't like how something's being done, you should make a movie. Like you
Right.
should do some research and make a biopic about Fred Hampton.
So, I mean, case in point, your question was, who is Fred Hampton and what did he do? Do you have a better scope? Do you have more insight in terms of answering that question after watching this film?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Right.
Um, like you asked me after we watched the film, did it inspire me to on my own go and look up information about Fred Hampton? And it did. Like right after the movie, I was online, trying to get some facts and just look up, some things that happened in his life as far as timeline and stuff like that. So it did inspire me to want to go and do some research and figure out a little bit more. So in that sense, I mean, I just think it was really effective.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a win. If somebody who does not know about Fred Hampton can watch this movie and feel inspired to go learn more about Fred Hampton, it's a win. If somebody who doesn't know about Fred Hampton can watch this movie and not walk away with a distorted perception of who Fred Hampton was as a result of the movie, it's a
Mm,
win. You know what I mean? If the movie didn't twist his story, I'd rather the movie not focus on every detail of his life or leave out certain content. I would rather that than tell a bunch of mistruths or bend the story and twist the story all up. You know
mhm.
what I mean?
I
And
agree.
yeah, so in that sense, it's a win. You know what I mean? Especially when you compare it to other biopics and other stories. We talked about that. Nina Simone biopic, Trash
Mhm.
Truck Juice, Jimi Hendrix biopic, Trash Truck Juice. I
Oh
mean,
God.
the list goes on and on. Bottom line, if the person ain't alive when the biopic being made, it's white people making it, 9 times out of 10, it's Trash Truck Juice. You know what I mean? We talked about Ray. Ray was alive. You know what I mean? And Jamie Foxx and what he did with that character in that role. And it was an awesome story of his life where they can
Mhm.
tell the things that went wrong in his life, but still tell a well-rounded story where he don't have to come out looking completely crazy and dysfunctional. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's how white biopics are drawn up. They can tell you all about their dysfunctions, their drug abuse, their sexual abuse, and still make them come out as the hero at the end of the movie. But when it comes to black biopics, nah, you walk away, you don't. I mean, Don Cheadle with the Miles Davis biopic, Trash Truck Juice. You know what I mean? You don't walk away from those films feeling inspired the same way as you would if the story was told in a more holistic fashion. And
Yeah,
this
like we
movie,
watched the James Brown story, and God rest Chadwick Boseman. But I it's crazy because I walked away from watching that, and the only thing I could kept thinking about was, oh, he hit his wife. Like
right,
I don't know why that's the only thing
right.
that stayed in my mind. The rest of it was just kind of like a blur to me, and I don't know if the movie was so trash or his performance or what, but that's all I walked away from the movie with. I know it was Jill Scott. She was playing that character, and he smacked the shit out of her, and that's all I walked away with. So that really has a huge impact when they do stuff like that and they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? When they write things like that into the script and choose to emphasize things like that over, more positive aspects of the person's life.
James Brown had his own food stamps in the hood. Uh, Nobody knows about that. You know what I mean? I wish I would have my own financial currency. You make a movie about me and not mention that. That in itself is such a crazy feat to accomplish. You know
Right,
what I mean? I don't even know how
right.
he pulled it off, but you know, it's just something that I came across one day. But you know, I mean, I ain't gonna say too much about that on the strength of Chadwick Boseman. You know what I mean? Rest in peace to the God Chadwick Boseman. I'm gonna reserve my my opinion on that movie just out of respect for Chadwick. You know what I mean? Because I watched the movie again recently and I saw it through a different lens, just on the strength that it was Chadwick and Chadwick had passed. But you remember years back when we first watched that movie, you know what I mean? You remember the reaction we had, like,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? But yeah, that's that. You know, when it come to telling our stories, man, especially when that person isn't alive or white folks are behind it telling it, you know, we don't get our just due. You know what I mean? So this movie, I'm glad that Fred Hampton Jr. and his mom was directly involved in it. That's as close as you're gonna get. You know what I mean? As far as somebody being living, alive, make sure the story is told well, told properly. And it didn't, you know, there were certain aspects of it I think that looked like, as far as the wardrobe and the scenery, there were certain aspects of it that looked a little Hollywoodish. You know what I mean? But overall, you know, I was concerned about that. Like I ain't feel like watching a parody of Black Panthers. I mean, we live in a day and time where, you know what I mean, people putting on fake wigs and fake Afro wigs and dressing up in all black just to kind of, you know what I mean, look the part and all that. And I'm exhausted with seeing that. You know what I mean? So I was concerned about that with this movie. Like I ain't want it to come off like cartoonish, like as far as the wardrobe and how it looked. And like I said, there were certain aspects of it that kind of gave me that feel a little bit. The one character in particular did the played on Wu Tang. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I knew
You
you
know
was
he.
talking about him
you
because it did
know what I
kind of
mean?
come off like that. Like
Yeah,
when he
yeah,
had the 70s guard, 60s guard on or whatever.
yeah.
I was
No.
just like, eh.
Yeah, no. You know what I mean? But
I mean, if I had to say anybody was a wrong casting choice in this movie, it would be him.
yeah,
To me,
yeah.
in my opinion, everybody else was okay.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe in a different role. You know what I mean? The kid he would have fit in a little bit better, but um he you know they put him in a tough guy role. You know
Right.
what I mean? No,
Yeah.
that
Right.
ain't you, buddy. You know what I mean? That ain't you. Not by far. You know what I mean? And,
Hmm.
I'm not trying to sound like an asshole towards him, but that's just just what it was. Lakeith, props. You know what I mean? I went back and watched the interview of the actual informant, the actual rat, and I studied his body expressions and his facial expressions. And clearly, Lakeith studied, he prepared for his role because, man, he captured dude's spirit. Like at certain points, Lakeith really, when I did a comparison of the actual person versus the character, man, Lakeith nailed that shit, man. You know what I mean? That's why when you was kind of criticizing Lakeith a little bit, I was like, yo, I can't see it. Like, man, Lakeith nailed that, yo. Man, I gotta say, man, you know what I mean? I'm impressed at Lakeith's body of work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I am
He gave
too. I
us,
think that's why I think I went into it thinking that, like, because I've seen him in other movies, and to me, he's always done a great job in everything else I've ever seen him in. So I think, coming into this, I don't know. I was expecting, like, I don't know what I was expecting, but initially I just wasn't overly impressed. But then like I said, I had to go back and really look at, you know what I mean, a lot of his body language in the movie, some of his like facial cues and just little subtle things that he did to like convey the character. I think he did pretty good. Yeah.
He did an awesome job as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? He gave us Get Out. He did an awesome job in Get Out. Even that
And Get Out,
crazy joint.
he only had a small role, but it was so impactful to me. Like
Yeah,
the same thing I'm saying about how he had that face and Get Out. Like when the
yeah,
dude looked at him and realized like what's wrong with him? He had this facial expression that was just like crazy, you know.
yeah, man. I don't, you know, I mean, come on, man. Charlemagne, the guy from the Breakfast Club, keep disrespecting the boy, and I don't know why. Cause this, you know what I mean? What is he giving us that's not worthy? You know what I'm saying? Like he giving us great roles. He picking great movies to work on. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
He ain't involved in a bunch of scandals and dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? He always got something positive and intelligent to say. You know what I'm
And
saying?
what's crazy, I found this interesting. So I think this is the second time them two are working together, him and Daniel. Because you know Daniel was the main character in Get Out,
Right.
and he said this is the second time that Daniel actually beat him out for a role that he wanted. So he was saying that, you know, implying that he read for the part of Fred Hampton, but didn't get it. And in Get Out, he read for the part of, you know, the main character and didn't get it. But he was in the interview, he was saying that like, man, that's crazy. This is the second time that this happened to me. But he still, his tone was still speaking like he still has so much respect for this dude as an actor. You know what I mean? And I just really appreciated that.
Yeah.
When I see black dudes come together and give you something awesome, you know what
Right.
I mean? I can really appreciate that.
Yeah. And you gotta think like if he read for the lead role and got the supporting role, still shine just as bright as the lead role.
Right. Right. Yep.
You know what I mean? He's one of those actors that I was saying he pulled from a deeper space. You know what I mean? As an actor, he pulled from that deeper space, and you know what I mean. He's one of those actors that I can only hope that he continues to get opportunities because I don't even think we've seen the best of what he has to offer yet.
Oh, I'm sure we haven't. Just like I said, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of certain black actors in Hollywood. Um, he's one of them. Like even though
Yeah,
he hasn't done that much stuff, I think he does a great job whenever we see him. That's
and
just my opinion.
let's not forget about the crazy movie. I think the coup was behind it. The joint where they was doing the experiments and turning black men into horses or something crazy
No,
like that.
sorry to bother you. Sorry to bother you.
Yeah. Yeah, he nailed that joint. And that was a crazy movie, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And he
Yeah,
nailed
that was
he
out there. I mean, if you
yeah,
like weird shit, that's a movie for you to watch.
right.
Another movie he was awesome in, I thought, and we just recently watched this was the movie Crown Heights. And that was
Crown Heights.
yeah, that was a I think that was a true story about the dude that got locked up for something he didn't do. He got locked up for murder, but he didn't murder the dude. So he was just in jail for a long ass time. You remember that? We watched it not too long
Vaguely.
ago.
I kind of remember that. I gotta check it out again. I
He
don't
had
remember
a
the details.
his homeboy was like fighting for him. Years and years was going by.
Yeah,
His homeboy wouldn't
yeah,
give up till he helped get him out of
yeah.
jail.
Right, I do remember that. He had a Jamaican accent or something in that
Yeah,
joint, didn't
yeah, right.
he? Yeah, I remember
I
that.
think he did an awesome job in that. So if you haven't seen that, you should watch that.
That and Issa Rae joint he did, the photographer.
Yeah, the
What was the
photograph.
name of it? Photograph.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I got to go back and watch that again too because I don't really remember it, but I remember the same thing. Like I was impressed. Like you know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think that I would walk away from that joint. You know what I mean? Like oh, you know what I mean? He did this thing once again.
Black love
So
story.
yeah, You know what I mean? So, you know, Lakeith is at the top of his game right now as far as I'm concerned.
We're gonna review that one too, the photograph. That's on our list. So we'll be talking about that at some point in the future.
All these joints, Crown Heights, you know what I mean? Sorry to bother you. We're gonna do reviews for all. We just touching on them right now because we're talking about Lakeith. We're gonna do a full review on all these joints, man. And you know, Ryan Coogler, man, like, you know, I can't complain, man. You know, for all of the trash that I've been getting as far as and continue to get as far as black movies and black characters, like Ryan Coogler, he you know, he hitting grand slams out the park. Every time I hear his name, it's associated with something that a black movie that has a certain level of integrity in it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I would have to agree with that.
You
I
know,
just
part of
hope it
me.
continues.
Yeah. You know, part of me, you know, I haven't really formulated this thought fully, but it's a part of me that for all of these movies, it seems like it's a very small circle of actors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's a part of me that would like to see, because I know it's a whole world of people out there that have that possess great talent and acting skills as far as black people are concerned, and for there to be a very small circle of actors that are getting the roles. This is not a criticism towards them and their acting skills, as they doing a great job. You know, I just don't want. I would like to see opportunities created on a broader scale. You know, and I don't know if that's a big axe. That might be a big axe. You know what I'm saying? Because what
Mm-hmm.
they're doing already is such a great feat in the face of all of the many challenges that black people face in this world and in the movie industry, that I don't want to take away from that either. You know, at the same time, there's a part of me that would like all of these black movies that are being made. I'm seeing the same circle of actors. There's a part of me that would like to see that open up a little bit more and introduce some more um, upcoming talent or more variety as far as black actors are concerned. But
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, within that circle, there's a lot of greatness. So I'm not knocking that at all either. You know what I mean? But I just feel a little. I don't know how to describe it. I feel a little. It's just something that calls my attention when I see just one elite circle. You know what I mean? Of
Mm-hmm.
actors, but I also have to take into consideration the many challenges that black people go through to even get to that point. You know what I mean? So, you know,
Right.
it's something that I'm still observing and thinking about, but it's just something that I notice amongst this particular circle. You know what I mean?
I think we made a little bit of progress. I mean, back in the day, all we had was Denzel.
Well, see, that's why I don't want to come across like I'm complaining or taking a shot. It's not a shot. Not a you know what I mean. I'm not trying to sound negative because, like you said, we came. I mean, when you really think about it, you know what I'm saying? I can't even
Mm-hmm.
remember a time period where there was a circle of black actors.
Right. Right.
Period. You know what I mean? That's why I say I do
Right.
take into consideration what it takes and what it has taken for us to even get to this point. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to criticize it negatively. Just in the evolution of events. You know what I mean? With all of this black greatness that is being brought to the table, you know what I mean? In the interest of the spirit of Fred Hampton, I would like to see it, you know what I mean, open up to the people on a broader scale and not just continue to be limited with a small circle of elite, you know what I mean,
Right.
elite black actors. You know what I mean? As though they're the only talent. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
That's good enough to fill these type of roles. So again, it's not a negative shot. It's just room for growth, room for evolution.
Okay. So we give Judus and the Black Messiah what? A glass of fresh squeezed
Fresh,
lemonade?
fresh squeezed lemonade with no white sugar, sweetened with a little bit of maple syrup.
Yeah, this movie was it. Really good.
You know what I mean? This is the kind of movie that I feel like I can sit down with my offspring and say, "Yo, let's watch this movie together." You know what I mean? And feel like, "Yo, this is a good movie to watch." Whether they're young or older, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And we don't have too many movies like that. So
True.
there you go. That's our review. Next week we'll be reviewing what? We decide yet?
American Skin and American Sun. So American Skin actually was just recently released. This is the movie done by Nate
Nate
Parker
Parker and
and I
Spike
think
Lee.
Spike Lee. Yeah. So that and American Sun, if you guys remember, this was released a while ago. This is a movie with Kerry Washington. But I thought it would be cool to do these reviews together because it's kind of like a similar premise. So yeah, next week we'll be talking about those two movies.
All right, so till then,